All right, here we go. Welcome to Soundtrap lesson number 1. Today we're going to learn some basic things. The first thing we're going to do is I need everybody to open up Soundtrap. And this should be the page that you see when you first open it. And you'll see all these tabs that say My Projects, My Groups. You guys probably won't see this stuff because I am the teacher and I have some extra features. But the Projects tab is where all of your anything you work on is going to be saved. My groups, so each class had that code that you entered when you registered, and if you're in multiple groups, maybe multiple groups will show up. If you're just in high school band, you'll just have the high school band tab. Maybe if you're in choir, you'll be in both high school choir and high school band, that kind of stuff. But today we're going to go to My Projects, and to start a new project, we are going to press Enter Studio. And we're going to wait for this to load. Loading. Still loading. If you have bad Wi-Fi like I do, it might take a while. And this will be the first page that pops up. It's going to give you an option, music or podcast. Podcast is going to focus mainly on just talking, that kind of stuff. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to select this music tab. This will give you the options for all the different instruments and stuff. So here we go, and then now you can see everything is blank. We have a couple different options that we're going to talk about. But first, we're going to get through some really basic stuff before we actually start making music. So a couple things that's really important that we first go over is this is going to be a really crucial thing down here is this tempo button. So tempo, of those of you who, I was about to say those of you that are in band class, but obviously everybody's in band or choir, some sort of music class. Tempo is how fast or slow the song is going. And so now you can hear there's that little click that's called a metronome. And so let's say 140, pretty fast. Maybe we want our song to be slower. There we go, it's a lot slower. And so tempo is something that's really, really important when making virtual music, because once you create any sort of instrument or recording, for the most part, you're stuck with the tempo. Now, software instruments are going to adjust accordingly to your tempo, but if you record yourself singing or you record an instrument, you really need to record it at the tempo that you want to get stuck with, because if you adjust the tempo of everything else, the tempos aren't going to line up with your audio recordings. So first, before you make any kind of beat, any kind of recording of anything, you always want to make sure that your tempo is set. So maybe if you have an idea in your head, you might want to tap the tempo of the little melody or whatever you're humming. And there's actually this really cool button that says click above or tap T repeatedly to set a tempo. So if here's my tempo, dut, 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 instead of actually going through all the different numbers and trying to find it, you can tap right here, dut, 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 and then all of a sudden it picks up that you're at 113. So you want to hit that 4 times. So now we have 113, but today I'm actually going to speed up my tempo to 140. I like to make lots of EDM and dubstep sometimes, and a very typical tempo for EDM or dubstep is 140 BPM, which for those of you that don't know, BPM stands for beats per minute. So now that we have our tempo set, we are going to add a new track. So if you see in the top left-hand corner, this left side right here is where all your tracks are going to be found. And so we're going to add a new track. And now you can see we have all these different options. We have voice and microphones. This is going to be if you want to record yourself talking like I am right now. Then we have the option piano or keyboards. Maybe you want a piano or some sort of keyboard sound like an organ. Anything like that will be under the piano and keyboards tab. Guitar and bass will be any guitar and bass sounds. Drums and beats. This is actually going to be the one we're going to start with. Guitar and bass amp, these are these are effects. If you plug your guitar into your computer, there's different amps, distortion effects, that kind of thing. Synthesizers are really cool. Lots of different cool, weird sounds you can get with synthesizers. Strings or violins, cellos, all that good stuff. And then brass and woodwinds, which is what our band is mostly made out of, is brass and woodwinds. But we're going to start with drums and beats. And this is the screen that's going to be pulled up. This is called a sequencer. And so what a sequencer means is this is a really easy way to be able to program drum beats instead of playing it in real time. You actually have this grid. We have the default is the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. And so we can just plug in where exactly we want our instruments to play. So you'll see that we have these 4 different groups. Here's group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 4. These 4 blocks are all 1 beat. So if I want to do straight quarter notes, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and now all of my grids are lined up right on the first square of each block. So that's, now I'll play it, and you can hear it's going to line up exactly with the click. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that means if each of these blocks, these big blocks, so 1, 2, 3, 4 are quarter notes. If we do every other block, these are going to be eighth notes. And so now you'll hear 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so now the fastest we can get is actually 16th notes, because a 16th note gets a quarter of the beat. So if each big block is 1 beat, if every single grid is filled, a quarter plus a quarter plus a quarter plus a quarter equals 1. And so now we have straight 16th notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. It's going to be really fast. And so that's the basics of Soundtrap's drum sequencer, which is what I want you guys to focus on today, is making your own drum beat. So what I'm going to do is, first, I'm just going to do a very, very generic drum beat that's common in lots of dubstep or EDM songs. So we have the kick on 1 and the snare on beat 3. So kick is beat 1. Here's our second big grid as beat 2. And so now I'm going to follow the line over and hit a snare on beat 3, and it'll sound like this. And now we're going to add some hi-hat. So now you'll find your hi-hat tab, and as we go, we can change things. This isn't permanent, because you can see that I can add and delete, and this is simply just by clicking. So let's just see what this sounds like. Let's just do straight eighth notes. So far, so good. Let's change it up a little bit, add a couple different things. And there we go, very, very basic beat. Other things you can do is you can actually add more sections of your drum kit. So right now you see we have hi-hat open. Here's the difference. There's a closed hi-hat sound and the open one. I'll play it so you can hear the difference. So it's not as tight, it's more of a tss. And there's all these other different sounds that you can choose from. And actually you can demo all these sounds if you click over here at the top. There's patterns. So this is our drum pattern that we have right now. And if you click the instrument, you can play this little drum set and demo all of the sounds, because actually we're not limited to just these drum sounds. If you click over here where it says machines, we can listen to all of these different drum kits that are lumped in with Soundtrap. So right now we're on the vanilla kit. And just for fun, we can see what some other kits sound like. I'm going to stick for the free kits because I don't know if you guys are going to have all these kits down here that say music makers. So let's see, purple kit sounds cool. Let's try purple kit. And so now our pattern stayed the same, but it's going to be different drum sounds. Not a big fan of that. We'll try a couple more. I'll probably just stick with the vanilla kit for now. Let's try... Oh, that wasn't free. That was a music maker kit. Let's do a free one. Old school. That might be cool. And also something I didn't explain is the way you get to hear your drum beat is at the bottom. You'll have all these options. There is play, fast forward, rewind, skip. This is a record button, which we'll get to in a little bit. But anytime you're hearing the drum set play, we're actually going to hit this little play button right here. So right now, play, and it's lit up purple. If I want it to stop, I'll hit that again, or you can simply hit the space bar on your computer. I did no clicking, all I did was hit the space bar. So space bar is play and stop, or you can just hit the play button down here. So let's take another listen to that old school kit. Not too bad. I'm actually going to stick with the vanilla kit. I think it has a cooler sound. That also depends on your song. If you don't think your drum kit fits, you can always choose a different drum sound. I don't know where it went. It's somewhere around here. I'll just stick with the kit we have now, the old school kit. And so a couple other options you have right off the bat are these three knobs right here. Reverb, you can do it a little, you can do none. Right now we have no reverb. Reverb is that sound that you get if you're like in a big gym or a big room. It's not necessarily, people usually get reverb confused with echo, but reverb is not an echo, and here's why. I'll show it to you right now. Here's all the reverb turned up. Now it sounds like we're in a really, really big room. Kind of like maybe you're in the gym or maybe you're in a big cathedral. And so that's not echo, because echo is boom, 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 where you hear the same thing over and over and over again. But this is this reverb knob where you can control, it makes it pretty much sound like you're in a room, and you can control how big that room is. So here is no reverb at all. Here's half of the reverb. So now it sounds like we're in a room. And here is lots and lots of reverb, sounding like we're in a really big room. And I don't really like that, so we're going to turn it off. Pan. So right now, everything should be in the center of your mix. And so if you're wearing headphones, usually, well, anytime you wear headphones, you'll have a left side and a right side. And so if you're wearing headphones right now, hopefully this works. But if I turn this all the way to the left, it should only be coming out of your left side of your headphones. If I turn it all the way to the right, it should be coming out of the right side of your headphones. And then right now it should be coming out of the center of your headphones. That's pan, and then volume is obviously how loud or how soft everything is. I can turn it all the way down. Now you can't hear it, you can only hear the metronome. I'll slowly start to bring it up. And there's that. So that's all the options you have in your instrument tab. You can also go to your piano roll. This is how you draw notes in. We're going to get to that in another lesson. So for today, I just want you to stick with this pattern right here. And just draw any kind of pattern you want. You can set it any tempo, but that's going to be your first assignment, is to do everything in this video and make your own drum beat. Okay, so let's start from scratch again. We don't have to do a common dubstep beat. We can do anything. This is all about being creative. And we're actually going to try to use maybe some more of these instruments over here. So I usually like to start with a kick and a snare. That's our most basic instruments in a drum kit. So let's have like a very driving kick, all quarter notes only. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually, something I'm going to point out right now, because it's getting on my nerves, is the metronome. I don't really like to hear the metronome click all the time when I'm programming drums. So right now, you can go over to your metronome. You can just click it off. Now you don't have to listen to it over and over and over and over again. And so here's our kick again. And you might hear some clicking and popping. So if you have slow internet connection, that's going to degrade the quality of your audio. It might get kind of annoying. So you'll just have to bear with it if you have really slow internet. But that's something I struggle with at home, is I have slow internet. So every once in a while you hear these weird crackling, popping noises. But we'll keep going. We're going to put a snare on beat 2 and beat 4. So here's beat 1, beat 2, beat 3. We're going to leave blank, and then beat 4. So now we should have boo, ch, boo, ch. Good. Now let's add some hi-hat in. Let's do hi-hat. We're going to make it syncopated. So we're going to do it on the off beat. So here's all of our hi-hats. Should be pooch, 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 pooch. Cool. Now we will add just a couple other little things. So crash cymbal, maybe we'll put crash on beat 1. Don't know how this will sound. We'll just drag in a high tom and a mid tom right here. Maybe it'll sound dumb, maybe it won't. Alright, really basic beat. So now that we're all done with that beat, we're going to exit out. And so this is our screen where it's going to show us all of our bars. So at the top, you can see that's actually just one bar. That's just one measure of music because we're in 4/4 time and there's 4 beats in a measure, and we just made a 4-beat groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's one measure of music. And so up at the top, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. These are all your different measures, all of your different bars, and this is a good way to make sure that all of your instruments are lining up. And so what I mean by that is maybe you'll have more than just a drum. Maybe you'll have strings. Maybe you'll have some strings in your song, which we'll get to this screen later in a different lesson. But this is a good way if you play a 4 measure groove that you can make sure that your measures are actually going to line up. Okay, we're going to get rid of that because today we're just focusing on making a drum beat. And so after you make your drum beat, you can add on to it, or maybe you just want the same thing over and over and over and over again. So one thing that you can do is once you have your drum beat in this screen, you see this little circle arrow thing, and then right here it'll say loop right under it. You click it, drag it, and you can loop this and make that beat be continuous, okay? So what I want you guys to do today is make a 4-beat or a 1-measure drum beat and then loop it for 8 measures. And after I play this, we'll do it from scratch one more time so then you can make your own. But here we go. Now you should hear the same thing for 8 bars. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Easy enough. I'm actually going to delete that and we're going to start from scratch now. So delete everything. So now we are completely blank again. So step 1, we are going to press add new track. Step 2, we're going to go to drums and beats. And step 3, we're going to choose a drum kit. You don't have to stick with the default vanilla kit. You can search through all of these drum kits over here. Find your own kit. Let's try a new one we haven't made yet. Dubstepper, that one sounds cool. Actually, I'm gonna go with dry chips. That sounds cooler. Dry chips. Oh, also, while this is loading, one thing you can do is you can actually demo the kits before you play them, with this little play button. Did he see what it's gonna sound like beforehand? And that actually sounds dumb. I don't like dry chips. And that sounds a lot cooler, so I'm actually going to pick Dubstepper. So now I'm going to put a kick on beat 1, snare on beat 3, like I said, common dubstep beat. Here we go. Let's see what that sounds like again, hitting my play button or your space bar. And so that will be your next step, is drawing in your own 4-beat drum beat. It can be anything you want. You can even add more instruments if you want to, or you can just leave it just kick, snare, and hi-hat. Try to make sure you use more than just one instrument. Let's try to be creative and maybe use 2 or 3 different instruments in your drum kit. So your kick, your snare, your hi-hat. Let's aim for at least 3. And then if you really want to get fancy, you can add some reverb if you want. Alright, so then our next step, we're going to exit out of this, and now we have to loop our drum beat. And so remember, you come up here, you see this little loopy arrow, and we're going to drag it all the way past the 8. So we have 8 measures now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to drag this cursor to make sure that it's over beat 1, because that's where it's going to start. If your cursor is over here and you press play, it's going to start playing right from the 5 where we had it. So make sure it's at 1. And then so you are going to make your 8-bar beat. And if you want to get creative and you want to add more stuff too, feel free to mess around with different instruments. Maybe you want to make add more instruments, add more tracks. Maybe you want a guitar track. Maybe you want a synthesizer. All of this isn't required, but if you want to make your 8-bar beat have more things than just drums, feel free to do that too. And we'll take a look at it. Be really creative, have lots of fun with it, and that's all you need to do for your first lesson. But like I said, if you want to keep moving on, learning different things that we're going to get to later, feel free to experiment, feel free to move at your pace. If you want to learn more than what we're learning, feel free to keep learning and messing around with Soundtrap, because you can make lots of cool stuff. Always let me know if you have any questions, and if there's anything you want me to listen to. I'll always love listening to anything you guys make. So feel free to contact me, email me, message me on Canvas, and I'll take a listen to any of your work. All right, thanks. Have a great day.